Hey everybody, Nancy Hart, founder of Whole Heart Evolution here with you and your transformational life coach with our Wednesday Mindset Tune-Up. And the title was something that came to me actually quite late in the process. I had a whole nother talk planned for tonight, but it is January 20th, 2021 here in the United States, on the planet, and here in the United States. We have just come through a transition of power, a peaceful transition of power. And there is an image among many, and this is not a political message, this is about a message of the heart, ladies and gentlemen. But I wanted to show you this picture that just completely changed the way I thought about how to look at tonight's message. And it's this one, if you can see. Sorry, I'm having to share my cell phone and kind of get it oriented. But it's a picture of a couple hugging one another, having a very vulnerable moment, present to one another, but also demonstrating it to us and showing us what it is to be vulnerable and love and present in the moment. It just so happens that this happens to be the new President of the United States and the new First Lady. And I found myself asking, what in the world is it to be vulnerable? And what are these two demonstrating in this public-private, private-public moment together? And it posed a question for me. Am I willing to be vulnerable? And am I actually willing to show that? Am I willing to be vulnerable to the messages coming from my heart? Am I willing to be vulnerable to engage in a conversation with someone perhaps I don't know well, or perhaps I may actually have a serious disagreement with? And that's part of the dynamic of what's going on in this country. Am I willing to be vulnerable to somebody I care about? Am I willing to be vulnerable in work? And hear me, vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is strength. And that's what I think these two are modeling in that picture. That there is strength and also being humble to the moment that we're in. Strength and being humble. They sound like two different words. They are not. They're the two sides of the same coin from where I sit. When it comes to what we're doing here, if we are developing a dream for our lives and we're actually in the process of activating it, oftentimes we feel clumsy. We feel humbled. I know that's certainly been my experience as I've taken on new things that perhaps I am not well versed in. I'm reminded of vulnerability, klutziness. It's not just for high school. It's for here. It's for now. It's for any of us who are trying on something new, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a new point of view in the way that we think. And I've also been thinking about that when it comes to our dreams. Are we willing to be vulnerable to the bigness that we can be in this, to the stretch that might be called for? To be vulnerable enough to ask for help, to be humble to this idea that we can be more and that we can embrace it and that we can live it. Are we willing to be vulnerable in the service of our growth? There it is, everybody. Are we willing to be vulnerable in the service of our growth? Whether it's a love relationship, whether it's with a family member, whether it's a new job, whether you're taking on a business of your own, or you were just inaugurated as President of the United States or Vice President of the United States. Are we willing to be vulnerable? Are we willing to be vulnerable to our heart, and are we willing to show it? In vulnerability, there is strength. There is courage. There is determination. Ladies and gentlemen, we can make a decision to be vulnerable. That may very well be the key to opening up, to extending our hand to those that perhaps we do not agree with, or we need to make amends, or we need to embrace, or even release. Perhaps there's something we need to release in our lives. So when I ask the question, are you willing to be vulnerable? Be vulnerable enough. As Brene Brown would say, dare big. Dare great. Dare to be vulnerable. There is strength, there is power in it. And on this day in the United States, when we are celebrating a peaceful transition of power, wherever you stand with that, be vulnerable enough, use your heart to extend your hand to another. And in this, let me extend my heart to yours with a pledge to be as vulnerable as I can be, to be humble to the idea, to keep it moving forward, and to provide you the best I can provide you. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday. Be vulnerable. Dare. Bye-bye for now. I'll see you next week.